Hello and welcome back to another patch 6.2 PTR video. So there's been a new build and today I'm going to give you the rundown of all the really important and just generally cool and fun stuff. I know often these videos sometimes come off as just being random crap, but if you do listen to one, trust me, it's today's one because they have fixed some concerns that I had and overall made a few subtle but quite positive changes, which is totally nice to see. So, first of all, let's talk about gear in Tanaan Jungle. This is a pretty important one. So previously, the gear from the Tanaan Jungle came from two different methods. Firstly, killing rares would give 650 gear, and then collecting treasures would give you 640 gear. Most of us thought, though, that this was completely pointless, because guess what? The gear that we get from our garrisons right now is 645. And that, stuff can be Warforged, and then of course you've got the stuff from the garrison raid missions. Well, they've changed it. Rares now drop 655 gear, and the treasures drop 650 gear. So overall, you're just looking at an increase in item level across the board, which I think makes a lot of sense, and I really am happy to do it because now that gear is going to be of relevance to me, especially, well, only on the alts. Of course though, my alts are equipped with BRF and High Mall raid mission gear from the garrison, but there are still quite a few slots to fill with Tanaan content, so I suppose that's good. Moreover, we are going to earn Apexis crystals at the same time that we do all those rare hunting things, which can be used to purchase gear. So overall, what this means is that gearing via world content on alts is going to be a lot better than it was in patch 6.1, and I mean honestly, back in 5.4, I kind of enjoyed hopping over to the Timeless Isle on alts and then learning new classes and new specs while I got some basic gear. I thought that stuff was at least pretty fun on a new alt. So that gameplay should be back a little bit more, and I'm almost sad that I did the garrisons on my alts, as the gear from them partially denies me of some of this content. Perhaps that's a bit of a gear balancing issue that Blizzard kind of missed the mark on. I still think that by giving so much raid gear from the garrisons to non-raiding alts, that they kind of invalidated some other potentially really fun stuff that they have in the game. Now, in addition to that, we have some sort of interesting news, I suppose. You could take this as being good or bad. We can get super powerful gear from the Shipyard missions. But it's a bit different. The actual bits of gear that come from the Shipyard missions are item level 650 on the PTR, and that's actually roughly the same as what we get from the current garrison missions. However, there's a change. They can be upgraded with an item called an Empowered Apexis fragment. These are a placeholder value of like 25 gold on the PTR, so we'll have to see what they cost when it hits live. When they hit live. But what we do know is that these items will upgrade the gear from the shipyard to 695. That's a very, very high number, and what I do like about this system overall is that the base bit of gear is kinda weak. I'm okay with that, and the actual upgrade, i.e. the real power, comes from you actually playing content in the game. You know, doing content that actually gets you learning your class and playing the game for a little bit. You know, you don't really learn much from clicking on a garrison menu, but at least when you're there fighting rares and, killing mobs, well, you're pressing buttons of your class and you're doing your rotation, and that's actually backing up core gameplay skills, and I think that's pretty good. However, I do think the item level is too damn high. 695 is quite a bit higher than 685, and Mythic Dungeons now drop 685 gear as a baseline and then 700 from the end boss. And I've got to admit, I think that the gear from this I think it's called Bayful gear, I think the upgraded item level should be 680. That way, Mythic Dungeons will give better gear, and honestly, I think that's the way that it should be. So, while I think they could tone the item level down a little bit, I think the method of acquisition here is really, really great. And honestly, I think they missed a bit of a trick in patch 6.0. I love the idea of the garrison giving you this sort of crappy bit of gear, but then you upgrade it by actually playing the game. Well, in 6.0, if you got regular bits of gear from the garrison that were upgraded with Apexis, that would have given people more of a reason to go out into the world and actually care about stuff. So, hey, it would have been nice for this to be in earlier, but it's really great that they've done it in a more intelligent way this time around. Though the mythic stuff does have the added benefit that you can just do all the mythics at once, and that will get you gear far faster than waiting for the shipyard stuff to pop up. So that's definitely good, and that is pretty much it on the gear front. I think there were some, pretty small, but overall nice changes to the way they're doing things in this patch. So as far as mounts go, there's been a bunch of new ones, and some of them are super easy to get. So there's a new garrison vendor, which I'll cover in a bit, but they sell a new boar mount for 10k and a river beast for 20k. Those prices are probably placeholder though, but what strikes me as interesting is that they are similar enough to the value of a WoW token. I've got to imagine that if mounts, or if WoW token is a thing now, right, can Blizzard put more mounts in the game for gold and essentially be guaranteed that they're going to make a little bit more money off that because people can just purchase a WoW token to purchase the mount. Perhaps that will de-incentivize store mounts and re-incentivize adding mounts in the game that are purchased with gold. Perhaps that'll be a thing. I'm just kind of spitballing an idea there. Anyway, the prices, as I said, they're probably placeholder. We might see them change, so who the hell knows. Also, there's a new Grondling mount. It's called a Coalfist Grondling, and it comes from the 675 follower missions. I find it odd that a mount comes from such an easy source, but I suppose it's okay overall, and it's nice to have something come from those garrison missions that's a real reward and not just a random resource that sort of gets thrown into a pool somewhere. Also, it is a pretty nice reskin, so those of you with Pound Fist, you're going to be clearly different from these people. Also, speaking of mounts, there are 3 new PvP Grondlings, one for hitting Gladiator rank for each season, and that's 3 seasons worth of mounts, and they reference Season 3 quite a few times on the PTR. Does that mean anything for the length of the expansion, or maybe they're just putting in a placeholder in case they need to split the next season in 2, similar to what they did with Season 14 and 15? Hard to say either way, but, well, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. They are known to just tweak around with things on the PTR, so it's really hard to know for certain. Anyway, let's go and cover some of the new vendors. Well, all of them. There are 2 new vendors on this build, and they're both really important. The new Garrison one sells the 2 gold mounts that I mentioned earlier, a new battle pet called Crusher, and 2 new types of follower weapon and armor. The Draenic armor and weapon sets give a follower 645, I believe, item level, and they can be purchased for gold. This is a great way of catching up your alts, and the reason why I think this is a pretty good addition is that it removes some of the grind from the mission system. It is such a pain in the ass leveling your alts up, and also it's probably worth mentioning that they recently confirmed that they will not be making any of the tokens BOA. So essentially this just removes some of the grind from that system, makes new alts a little bit more palatable, and I think that's absolutely a good addition. Then next, as far as vendors go, there's a new Apexis one. First of all, these sell those empowered Apexis fragments that I talked about earlier that upgrade the shipyard gear, and they're currently costing gold, but since they are on an Apexis vendor, I'm going to assume that they will cost Apexis crystals. Also, Seals of Tempered Fate can be purchased. They're 300G on the PTR, but maybe they'll cost Apexis. They'll just, be another bonus roll, and the cap has been upped to 20. There is going to be a new bonus roll token in 6.2, so you can purchase loads of Seals of Tempered Fate once it hits to help gear your alts up and maybe, your Blackrock Foundry LFRs and things like that. There's also a Fell Direwolf mount, costs 150k Apexis and 100k gold, though we know for a fact that's subject to change. And then finally, for 2.5k gold, you can purchase an item that increases the size of your garrison's cache by 1,000 resources. So that's kind of cool. Prices, though, are subject to change, though overall, if Apexis missions are going to play more of a role in this patch, then it does make sense that they at least give us something useful for Apexis crystals. One thing that's nice about that increased garrison cache size is it means that you can sort of just let an alt sit for a few more days without really feeling like you're missing out on something, and that's absolutely a good point. And finally, I'm just going to cover some follower mission stuff. I've already talked about these a little bit, but in addition to getting the Grondling from a follower mission, there are also some new major additions. There is a 300% bonus XP elixir from a mission called Arakoa Mastery, though it's only got a 15-minute duration. There's also a new pet and toy. There's the Cinder Pup, which is kind of cute looking, and a Burning Blade transformation item. There's also a mission for 1,000 garrison resources, and more importantly, a mission that gives 1,000 honor and conquest. I've got to wonder whether that conquest is A, there to sort of just softly nudge people into PvP, and B, if it's going to count towards the weekly cap. For an example, the Seal of Tempered Fate that you get from your follower mission doesn't actually count towards the cap. So how is that going to turn out? Not 100% sure, but honestly for PvP, I don't think the gearing up with Conquest is that fun. Gearing up with Honor is fun because it's kind of quick and whatever, but once you get into the stage where you're thinking about Conquest gear, as far as I'm concerned, what you want then is just to have balanced PvP and the ability to increase your rating without gearing getting in the way of things. So overall, getting more conquest probably isn't a bad thing, and really, I think they should de-emphasize conquest gear progression and try to re-emphasize something else that's maybe based on rating or something like that. I think that might be more fun for what PvP gameplay actually is. Anyway, that is it for this video. Overall, I've got to say, I'm really happy with what they've added in this new PTR build. Granted, there are lots of small things, but often a few small changes can really turn into something that's quite a bit larger, and hopefully that is the case. As this patch goes on though, all I hope is they add some new stuff into Tanaan Jungle, especially in the Vault of the Earth, and just try to beef out the world content a little bit more. Because right now in this patch, yeah, they added some little changes and systems that will make more use of that world content, but I still worry as to the quality of the actual world content itself. So yeah, hopefully the Vault of Earth, which currently has got nothing in it, will have some sort of new rep or, you know, big bit of content. That would be really nice. Anyway, that is it for me. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I will see you next time.